Good evening, fellow ghouls and specters alike. It's your ghost host with the most, Tiki here.
In the Blue Dragon 5, here to engage some haunted holiday hijinks by trudging through the catacombs and dusting off the cobwebs to recount a spooky selection of Halloween classics.
So, light the jack-o'-lanterns, suit up, and grab the candy dish as we revive and recount tonight's spooky selection. Man with the screaming brain. All right, Dragon. I was like, "Are you gonna do a Bruce Campbell thing?" Like that's what was going through my head was the Bruce Campbell of it all. But no, you hit me with a sideways swipe, my friend, with that accent.
Yeah.
So okay, Man with the Screaming Brain. This is a 2005 passion project from the one and only Bruce Campbell. Written by Bruce Campbell, directed by Bruce Campbell, starring Bruce Campbell, story by Bruce Campbell. Dragon, there's literally a book written by Bruce Campbell. So I gotta tell you, this is fun for sure. I'm not in love with this. I think that the B movie quality of this absolutely like this in some ways, Dragon. I hate to say it, but in some ways it kind of feels like an asylum level, like we're making a bad movie for the sake of making a bad movie in some ways. But in other ways, I mean, obviously the title Man with the Screaming Brain, like once we get to that stuff, it's great. Like all the stuff with Bruce Campbell and the out of body brain and everything, like we have a restaurant scene that's very much out of Venom with the lobsters and everything. It very much reminded me of that. All that stuff is good. My only problem is we don't really get enough of it for my taste. And I think that a lot of the plot stuff in this movie is kind of too complicated for its own good. But we'll get there when we break it down. Other than that, I certainly had a good time with it. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't quite as entertaining. Like the stuff that does work really works. I just feel like there's a bit of filler surrounding this movie and a bit of messy plotting that kind of keeps it from being like that perfect sort of campy B movie watch. All right, Dragon, I'll give you a chance to say what you think of the movie, and then also I'm sure that you've got some backstory to it too.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, this first time I've seen this. I've always been looking to watch this, and it's just kind of finally available. It was added to Amazon. I don't know how long it's been on Amazon, but I've heard about this. Here's the thing: I read Bruce Campbell's book. I love it, and he talks about the making of the Man with the Screaming Brain, and of course I've seen like the trailers and some clips of it, but never the full thing. So having seen this now, not Bruce Campbell's best, but it does demonstrate kind of the hallmarks of Bruce Campbell, the Bruce Campbell charm, if you will, and the B movie of it all, which of course
Totally,
in this
totally.
case
This is absolutely an homage to the B movie for sure.
which in this specific case, it's not even an homage to it. This is a B movie is a modern B movie. In this case, here's the very special version of B movie that we have at our disposal here. In this case, this is the infamous example of the Sci-Fi Channel B movies. This is the Sci-Fi Channel really kind of
Oh my
modernized.
god, no. Okay, hold on. Hold on. You hit it right over the head. I knew I had something with the asylum thing. That's exactly why this feels like an asylum movie.
Well, yeah, this was literally made for the Sci-Fi. Essentially, I mean,
That makes so much more sense now.
yeah, that's the thing.
Dragon, by the way, do you know what the B in this B movie stands for?
Brains.
Brains. All right, I'm sorry. I
Where?
saw the dad joke and I had to take it.
No, but seriously, that's the thing. This was essentially made, if I recall, in conjunction with the Sci-Fi Channel that produced the movie, and it was like they're hoping to make their money back on sales, but we'll get there. The point being, though, this That's what I'm saying. The Sci-Fi Channel essentially they kind of remodernized, kind of like the B movie, and kind of they have like they probably have like some sort of different name for it than B movie, because back in the day it would be absolutely a B movie. Which of course Bruce Campbell
The only other name I can think of it is like a grindhouse, but I'm not sure if that's
it's not.
really the
No,
same
Grindhouse
thing.
is something. Yeah, Grindhouse is something
Yeah.
else. That's but you see what I mean though. It's just the fact that we've had the B movie, which of course Bruce Campbell very much. The B movie and the indie movies with Bruce Campbell very much kind of and cult movie essentially is kind of what where he made his bones with
Uh-huh.
Evil Dead, obviously, and the biggest, technically the only studio movie he's ever done is Army of Darkness, because Universal technically got their hands on that, and technically Bubba Hotep, but only in the
Oh
sense
my
that
god.
MGM eventually bought the rights to it. Ergo, it becomes a studio movie.
That is like the least studio friendly movie ever.
Exactly. So it's barely a studio. It's just by conjunction it ends up being a studio
Hey,
movie.
hey, major studios. You like old black JFK?
Yeah.
All right.
You know what the kids love? The kids love Ozzie Davis. That's who the kids love.
Oh my god.
Forget all this horror and serial killer stuff. Let's just put Ozzie Davis in a suit and make him think he's Kennedy. No, but
Yes.
seriously, that's the ultimately, because of the whole like the modern day B movie with the Sci-Fi Channel originals that of course we see all the time, like Sharknado and all that sort of stuff, and Sharktopus, um, and other stuff. Obviously, this movie.
I love how freaking Pinocchio 2022 basically saw Sharktopus and it was like, hey, Monstro? We should do that.
Pretty much, but with a whale. It's a whale to puss.
Right, right. Oh
Let's get Brendan Fraser to star in it.
my god. I'm legitimately stoked for that movie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. Do you remember how it's? Well, we don't have time to get into this right now, but yes, I'm looking forward to that. Regardless, but I mean, this movie to me ultimately it looks cheap, and they it very much was shifted from the original concept for reasons I'll get into momentarily. But I think ultimately I'm pretty sympathetic with you taking that. Ultimately, you see the heart of the idea once it gets going, and
Mhm.
it's kind of weird in all the right ways. Just takes a while. It's just very cheap sci-fi and like filler until we get there, until we get to the good part, which is still pretty cheap, but it still looks it's still kind of fun, and kind of looking back on, again, not my go-to. It's no Bubba Hotep, but it's fun. It's a fun movie.
Sure, sure.
All right,
All right.
yeah. Let me tell you the background on this, Tiki.
Please do.
I gotta be honest, the background's always better than the movie itself.
You know what? I'm not surprised.
So, long story short, just to get you the bullet points here. So, this was pitched back in the '80s to Bruce Campbell, and from his writer pal David Goodman, not David A. Goodman who works on the Orville and from Family Guy. No, that's David A. Goodman. This is just David Goodman. In the '80s, and basically this is kind of like a 19-year endeavor, and kind of had like an Evil Dead esque kind of like kind of the first Evil Dead, getting that funded and everything was kind of a journey. Which basically the idea is like Sam Raimi, Rob Tappert, and Bruce Campbell and Ted Raimi. There was kind of like the 3 to 4 amigos who were
Uh-huh.
basically going around and just like going to everyone. Again, that's a biopic I'd love to see about just those three stooges just going around, just getting funding for Evil Dead, just getting, it's the idea that they're guys like kind of college students like putting on suits trying to sell people on funding their movie. So essentially, a process similar to that happened, but even less likely for the Man with Screaming Brain idea to get it made. It was again very much in the spirit of the classic B movies, like the '50s B movie horror things. Just kind of very much is what the pitch was. It was it's very hard to fund B movies in general, let alone like indie movies. Like you have indie movies and then you have B movies. B movies are lower than the indie movies. They're very hard to get done because they're a harder sell. And there were a lot of misadventures in seeking the funding. You had some scam artists they would go to, and then they're like crazy people, like people with guns. It's a whole thing. Um, the original story was actually basically you had like a banker, like an investment banker of some kind. You had this guy, rich guy in East LA, who gets a Latino guy's brain. So the idea, you have like a kind of a class sort of thing. You have like kind of like the banker, and then the kind of the underprivileged Latino kid who gets the brain combination happening there. He was like a street hustler of sorts. So the idea, anyway. So that's originally what it was. But importantly, East LA was the setting, very American.
Mm.
So again, Sci-Fi Channel essentially, after Bruce Campbell, I believe, starred in the movie, they offered him two movies. Like, hey, we'll offer we do you have, let's give you two back-to-back movies for the Sci-Fi. Essentially, ultimately, they'll be on the Sci-Fi Channel. They put him in contact with Jeff Franklin. Not, I don't think it's the Full House Jeff Franklin. I think it's a different Jeff Franklin. Essentially, two movies that are shot in the same place for cost reasons. So again, like, where are we going to shoot this? Bulgaria, because it's cheap as dirt to shoot in Bulgaria, despite all the various
Makes sense.
problems you would have shooting in Bulgaria, because you have like street signs and cars, and it's obviously it's very hard. If it's hard to sell New York when you're in America, imagine how hard it is to sell, you know, sell other places, when you're in Bulgaria.
Mhm.
So basically, Bruce Campbell's okay. Look, we can't fake all this. We got to just change the location to we're going to Russia. Or we're going to at least Bulgaria directly here. So it was a nightmare to shoot in Bulgaria, as it is anytime you shoot in Bulgaria. There's a lot of mob and corruption at the time. Even in '05, there's still like a lot of people who know people. Like, you do not want to take off the wrong people in Bulgaria. Um, Essentially, a lot of the stuff that happened to Bruce Campbell and his wife kind of got written into the movie.
Oh
Like for example,
no! Oh my god!
well, okay, not no. So let me rephrase that. Not the relationship with his wife, though he was divorced, but I'm pretty sure that was way before at this
Uh-huh.
time, because he was already on a the second wife. I think he had
Like,
all the kids with.
did a maid rob him?
I mean, possibly. I don't know. What I do know is the cab driver thing is very much. I like to think. I don't know how much of it was written before they went to Bulgaria. It's either that or an
Uh-huh.
extreme coincidence. But they had a cab driver exactly like Igor, exactly like that guy. He's ex
Uh-huh.
KGB. He's very kind of wild behind the wheel and everything. And so essentially, so a lot of stuff like that happened. Fun fact: they uh, they pulled a prank on David Goodman, the writer of the thing, and they basically made him think that he was. They hired two guys to pretend to be cops, and they basically scared the crap out of him. Because again, if you're in Bulgaria, it's like, what are your papers? You always have to bribe the guy or something. And anyway, so
Right.
David Goodman's like
Right.
being
Yeah.
arrested and everything. So they reveal Bruce Campbell was playing a joke on him, and David Goodman was so scared by these guys, he hired him, and one of those guys is Vlad, and Vlad is Igor, the cab driver. He's the co-star of the movie. That's how he got hired.
Oh, nice, nice. That's funny.
I guess last two things here. Bruce Campbell, he got injured during this movie. It was a nasty injury. During the climax of the movie at the sewer, he got a rust infection.
Oh no! Ooh,
As in,
that's nasty. Ooh.
and you know how it's a bad, you know how it's a bad sign when you get injured during a movie and getting an infection when it happens in like 2 hours versus like over a period of time. It's like in less
Yeah,
than two
yeah,
hours. It's
for
like,
sure.
yeah, tissue damage. We have to patch this up. Tissue
Oh
damage.
god.
It's like, that's, so that was not great. And of course, the unfortunate thing at the end of all this is that the film bombed very badly because again, the idea was trying to make their money back. Probably in a brief theatrical run, but it did. It bombed, and the gag is Bruce Campbell. I'm inclined to believe him. Bruce Campbell says he bought as many copies of the VHS as he could, and what he did with them.
Oh god.
Like he bought
Oh,
thousands. He bought thousands of copies of the VHS, and you know what he did with them?
what?
He went to his house. So Bruce Campbell lives in this kind of cool, awesome ranch in Oregon. Essentially, for one of the B movies he did, he built like a western town, which I don't know if it's still there, but he basically built like a whole western town in his backyard. And inside the main house that he lives in, he used the VHS tapes as insulation for the
Oh
house.
no. Oh god.
So it was like the pink
That's
stuff.
like, oh, that's both sad and hilarious at the same time.
Yes, let me say this: is I'm going to say it probably 1,000 times in this. God bless Bruce Campbell. I love that man so much.
Right.
Oh, he's so wonderful. Okay, all right, there we go. It's this movie's not really super deep, so I think we kind of cover our bases a lot with the background there.
Yeah. Do you know what came first, like the book or the movie?
Well, here's the thing. The movie probably came first, and the book was you mean the comic, right?
I guess, yeah.
I'm just saying because there's like, if you'll notice, like one of the other posters they use for this movie essentially is the comic book, which I believe is like a tie-in comic the Sci-Fi Channel put out. I
That's what
think
I figured. Okay.
so. Probably the movie first, or in conjunction, or something along the lines. I don't think it was made as a comic before this, during the whole like development hell phase. I don't think that necessarily happened, but I don't know. It's been in development for like since the '80s. So
Only
you
reason
know,
I was curious is it said story by Bruce Campbell. So
yeah, lots of things. Like again, David proposed it to him, and then the two of them hashed out that they wrote it. So he ultimately, so probably.
okay. All right. So yes. Now, Dragon, I will admit I do some of the stuff I do like about this movie. I do genuinely like the dynamic that we get with the cab driver. Um. Okay, let's see. We do have some comics. Some comics. Jesus Christ. Some
Well,
comics.
Tiki, I have comics.
We have some comments here. We have Costi Productions says, never heard of this, but saw Bruce Campbell and was summoned.
Ah,
Uh, B movies are indie movies for weird people. Indeed.
correct.
Infections just sound grosser than injury.
Oh
Well, I
yeah.
mean, infections just by their very nature, I feel like, are grosser than actual like like say like you sprain your ankle as opposed to getting an infection on a wound on your ankle. I think the infection is just by its very parasitic nature worse. Anyways,
Yeah.
okay, so yes, this movie does start with a very relatable situation, which is like, hey, oh my god, this couple landed in this foreign country. They don't know where they're going. The guy at the airport said he'd be there with a sign, but he's not there. They need to find a taxi, and they go to the one guy who speaks English. Dragon, I haven't traveled to a foreign country, but I can say that even just going to airports where I'm like not familiar with where the Uber pickup drop off is or something like that, I can very much get overwhelmed. So I know exactly how this feeling of like, just like fuck it, I'm just gonna go to the first taxi I see. I don't care how much it costs.
You know what's really funny?
What?
So apparently when Campbell was there, he and his wife they learned this little trick. So basically, because the people of Bulgaria, at the very least at that time in '05 and probably all throughout the '90s, if I'm a betting man, they they'll try and scam and get one over, or kind of like pester the Americans, like the very obvious American tourists. So the trick, the the trick to kind of avoiding that is speak French to them.
Yeah, that's funny. That's
So Bruce
funny.
Campbell doesn't know a lot of French, but he knows like this one phrase in French. So he basically said that every time they were accosted, it scares them off because they think, okay, the French don't like to mess around. Just like not that they're intimidated by him. It's like
Right,
the
right,
French don't care. They don't care about anything. We're not going to get one over on them.
yeah.
Anyway, so but yeah, no, that's the thing. I really do like the eager, the cab driver thing. Honestly, I think with the writing, I think it was really a good idea to have like okay, so we have a very very, as we kind of make a joke about it, very kind of Donald Trump esque, and in terms of like the old school Donald Trump, just like the whole rich, kind of fat rich white guy.
Mhm.
And it's the idea of like, hey, let's we have this battle of kind of of capitalism and and kind of communism is kind of brought up between these two guys. And it's the argument of like, like, hey, capitalism's pretty good, yeah, but now my life is worth so much less.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the that kind of stuff is a little on the nose, but it is decent as far as just building up the character and the dynamics go. So I'll take it. It
And
works.
it builds them nicely as opposites for what happens
Uh
later. I
huh.
mean,
Uh
sure,
huh.
And of course, I like that we kind of pay him like $200 a day to be on call, and that's kind of cool.
Okay, so Dragon, this whole thing about paying him to be on call, it actually reminds me. I don't know if I ever told this story on the podcast. You remember if we ever did a trip report when I got back from Dollywood?
I remember you mentioning Dollywood. I don't know if I was there because I'm not sure. I know
Because at
you.
Dollywood, Dragon, one of the things that my grandma and I encountered in that area is that Ubers were very unreliable. Like for some reason, there were just not a lot of Ubers in the area, and sometimes they just cancel on you. So basically, what ended up happening, Dragon, and this is why this whole thing with the cab driver is probably like beyond the title "Man with the Screaming Brain" and Campbell's performance there, which we'll get into. I think this cab driver is probably the thing that draws me into the movie the most. Is that my grandma and I actually basically ended up essentially doing the same thing, Dragon, because what we would do is we'd give this dude like about $100 a day, and he, and we gave him, we exchanged personal phone numbers with him, and he'd essentially, drive us back and forth from wherever we needed to go. And the benefit of that was, because we actually did get him on Uber, but he wasn't on Uber all the time. So you see what I'm saying? It's like we, because of the Uber situation, we ended up basically just having to rely on one of the locals.
Yeah, interesting.
So I don't know. I'm sorry, that's just kind of long-winded, but I'm just saying I kind of get this whole dynamic of like, the eccentric local who you kind of have to rely on. You don't really have a choice in the matter. All right.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
All right, let's see. So again, this, of course, a premise though, a billionaire comes to finish the subway, which it was like an actual thing over there. Like they didn't have like the subway system. At least it was kind of like an abandoned project back in the day. Which now, of course, the Iron Curtain dropping and everything, it's like all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So again, so pretty much like our first scene with Igor. That's all kind of like essentially from Bruce Campbell coming over and everything. The idea that you'd have like a lot of the characters are kind of displaced kind of ex-KGB and stuff. I'm not saying all of them are, but you have like a lot of resourceful men, and you basically have resourceful guides. When every time you go to like Russia or Moscow or Bulgaria, which again, Bulgaria and Russia, it's like the idea is it's kind of like it's not Russia, but it's kind of close by. So there's similarities, but the language is not the same. It's a whole thing. Mm-hmm. But just the idea, it pays to have a guide.
Sure.
Let's see. It's like that. We kind of set up Igor as like, this is a streetwise guy here. He says like, whatever happens, stay in car. So we should have been our villain of the piece, shouldn't we?
Sure. Go ahead.
Tatoya.
Yes. Oh man, she is a lot of fun. I will admit, she is a lot of fun. Essentially, she is just kind of like. Drake, you know what she reminds me of? She reminds me of like, what if the fantasy girl from National Lampoon's Vacation turned on Clark Griswold?
Yeah, what if she tried to kill him?
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, it does. Toya here,
that's basically what she starts out as, because we start this movie and Bruce Campbell. I'm sorry, I'm Dragon, I know his name is William in the movie. I'm going to try my best to remember that. But if I just call him Bruce Campbell, I apologize. But, but William at the start of the movie, he's having some serious marital issues. That is going to become a theme in the film. And, the first time we see this woman, she's just kind of like the sex, in that sexy maid attire. And it's like, you kind of get some National Lampoon vibes of like, oh, is something going to happen, at least in his head? But no, it's very, very, this woman turns out to Dragon. I like how she escalates in her villainy from just being, just kind of like a petty thief into just a straight up, like crazy person by the end of the film.
Yeah, so the thing with Tatoya, so she's a gypsy, and basically she's almost like is not specifically like the best, it's not the most accurate thing, but she's like a gypsy Black Widow. The idea is unless she kills people she marries, she kills the men who break up with her. She kills the ex-lovers. Mm-hmm. And of course, forgive me for like turning this into the Bruce Campbell appreciation hour, but the Bruce Campbell charm at play with the ladies, just seeing him kind of make the moves on her. Obviously, she has a bit of an agenda. She like steals the cash and everything, but still, like,
just a bit of an agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying when he walks up to her though, it's like, yeah, look at that Campbell charm, and also Campbell. Tiki, let's take a moment to appreciate it. Campbell with a mustache.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the coolest things about this movie. It's Campbell.
And it's not one of those like pencil thin waiter mustaches either.
No, that's a mustache. Not a he's got a mustache. That's a mustache.
God.
That's a stash.
It's like it's not a Nick Offerson mustache, but it'll do, damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Anyway, so let's see. So of course, let's talk about something really cool. We have a mad scientist. We have great casting. We have the great Stacy Keach, the freaking Phantasm himself.
I know,
Mask
right?
of the Phantasm. Well, I love when Steve Keach. I love when he pops up and things. He's been in all the good stuff that we love to give. He's been in Kidding. In season 2, he has a brief bit in Kidding. He pops all over the place. Like for me, he shows up regularly in Blue Bloods. He's like the I don't know, Cardinals. He's like the priest. He's like the main like priest or
Uh-huh.
father. And the point being, Steve Keach. I love when that guy shows up. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Anyway, so Ted Raimi is also there as the lab assistant, as we have Dr. Ivan Ivanovich Ivanov.
And
And
I honestly think Ted Raimi might just steal the show as far as like the most campy performance goes.
of course, and Pavel.
Ted Pavel.
Oh, God.
Dragon, he has got such an Igor and Young Frankenstein energy to him, and I love it. And of course, that's the exact kind of role he's trying to come off as, and it's great.
Tiki, it's pronounced Igor. No, but yeah, absolutely. It's the idea you have this legit. In casting Stacy Keach, you have a legit scientist. And you also have this very resourceful yet dopey lab assistant who again
Right.
is very kind of Igor-esque,
And he still kind of fits into the KGB of it all, but while at the same time, very much filling the role of this film's Igor without any question.
My favorite detail with Pavel is that he tried spicing up the letter and then it failed miserably, so he really goofed
Right,
that up,
right.
and then he kind of finds a way to redeem himself, and then of course he ultimately he kind of redeems himself in a really absurd way with the robot. Has like this robot. He's like, we can put the brain in the robot. And ultimately, they put a brain in the robot.
We'll get to the robot. I'm not sure how I feel about the robot.
Yeah, we'll get to the robot. So let's talk about kind of the brain, the brain repair. So basically, William McCauley gets hit in the head with a pipe by Toya, and Igor gets shot. So the point being, they're both kind of about to die and basically about to expire, and he's got brain damage and he's dead. So thanks to Dr. Ivan, we essentially Frankenstein the damaged brain tissue. So we kind of use the working pieces of brain from the two men. So it's kind of like a living tissue sort of thing versus a dead tissue sort of thing with Frankenstein. We kind of meld them together, and we have our kind of, you remember the Steve Martin movie, The Man with Two Brains?
Nah, I can't say that I do, no.
So that's the thing. Obviously, as you can imagine, there's a lot of similarities between the Man with Two Brains and the Man with the Screaming Brain.
But yeah, this movie, is, of course, I do think it takes a little too long to get there, but once we're there, it really does start to come alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the MVP of the movie, unequivocally, is Bruce Campbell's slapstick abilities and the physical comedy that we have conveyed.
Of course, the makeup's great too. He's got that giant scar across his forehead.
Yep, and of course, like by the end of the movie, we finesse the process so it looks a lot better. But but this is the idea. Like this is like the rough prototype. This is like the first time they tried this on somebody, and it's like, oh god, it's so hideous.
Oh,
I say we had a lot of great comedy here. It's the fact that he's they're stealing cars, and we have like the whole one part of the brain controls one side of the body and then the other. And of course, Igor is a lot more of a tough guy versus like this marshmallow in a suit. So he's again, it's a lot of, if we know anything, Tiki, if we know one thing about Bruce Campbell, it's that his hand acting is impeccable.
No, of course.
I would say all the Evil Dead stuff, him fighting his Bruce Campbell has fought his hand, has done more so with his hand than Freakazoid. Like that's not a sidekick, that's just your hand. God, regardless. So of course, I think my favorite scene in the whole thing. I wonder if it's yeah, I think I know it. Yeah, you mentioned earlier. Favorite scene in the movie, the restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's comedic gold. It's just like the reactions, the editing. It's as far as I'm concerned, you can basically just have the clip of the restaurant, and it pretty much speaks for the whole movie.
I mean, you know what the restaurant scene reminds me of?
I mean, I already told you what it reminds me of. For me, it reminds me of the lobster scene from Venom.
Well, yeah, sorry, I meant something other than the lobster scene from Venom. It reminds me of at the scene with the Invisible Man. Ab can still meet the Invisible Man, where it's like the whole he's ordering spaghetti and a steak. Well, do you want spaghetti or do you want the steak? Spaghetti and steak. So there's a little bit of that here, which the whole like in terms of the ordering process and all that thing. But yeah, the two drinks gag is really funny. There's like, okay, look, we'll race to it to see who gets the drink first. Okay, we'll race to it. He's like just ends up like throwing like vodka in his face, and his brains catch him. Then we have the grossest scene in the movie where he has to use the toilet to cool off.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I mean, I commend Campbell for that, man. He took one for the team there.
Yeah, that's the thing, Tiki. So when they were shooting this
Have you
movie,
ever
because you gotta
seen?
remember,
You probably haven't seen Train Spotting, right?
no.
There's a very, very, very memorable scene in Train Spotting involving one of the characters having to climb into a toilet. I'll just leave it at that. Anyone who's seen the movie knows what I'm talking about.
Regardless, there is you got to remember. So one of the things about how they shot this movie is, again, this is not a big production at all. Like their budget was $3 million, which is way more than they thought they were ever going to get for it. Because they were prepared for like 800,000 essentially, but it was like no, it's like 3 million, which is good. But basically, in shooting in Bulgaria, they didn't really build sets in this thing. They found like locations and stuff. That's pretty much what they did for the entirety here. So I would doubt that they built a bath. That's probably a real toilet that I hope to God they flushed first.
Yeah.
And like
I
for
think
example,
if anything else, they probably dirtied it up a little bit.
yeah, I mean, sure.
At least I hope that's artificial dirt.
Yeah, it's like when it's like Better Call Saul. When Jimmy's in the trash, that is fake Hollywood trash, kids. He's okay. All right, he's fine. There's no like, repulsive stuff. Just that's clean trash. But yeah, also so when they're shooting a lot of these locations and stuff, some of the mainly the exteriors, they have this nickname for it, Bruce's Backlot. Now, Bruce's Backlot essentially is like they would just go around, they'd find like there are a lot of abandoned buildings in Bulgaria, and they kind of like that was kind of their solution for a lot of this, and that's how we go like probably the garages and stuff and things like that. Anyway, so after that, let's see. So okay, so let's talk Robo Jackie.
Yeah, I don't. This thing is like totally like giving me some uncanny valley, man. I don't.
Tiki, it's literally a fake. It's a very fake robot.
It's very disquieting to me the way it moves. I like the way that it has like the power as like represented as the liquid in her body. That's just I don't know, man. Just everything about it is just a little bit off-putting to me. And you know what else I don't really like about it, honestly, Dragon, is the fact that like plot-wise, like I'm not gonna lie, Dragon, like Bruce Campbell at the start of this movie, he is a dick to his wife, like just straight up. And like yeah, she is being very passive about the situation too, but I mean it seems like this has been an unhappy, unhealthy relationship for a good amount of time now. And so with that in mind, I feel like this whole subplot of Bruce Campbell falling back in love with his wife via the robot and what she's willing to sacrifice for him, Dragon, that is exactly where I feel like the movie just kind of gets too big for its britches, I think.
Really? So you think the whole like the love story is too big for its britches?
I feel like thematically, yes, because I feel like we're going from the idea of basically being in this really unloving marriage that I don't want to say it's implied to be abusive because it's not, but at the very least,
they are cheating on
very unhappy.
They're cheating on each other, Tiki. That much we do.
That too, yes, that too, of course.
I was thinking it's more of that problem than it is like it's more neglectful than abusive.
No, you're right. And so I just don't buy the whole thing of like, once she becomes a robot and she kind of sticks her neck out for him, then suddenly he's just like very much like in love and like Dragon. I don't know. I feel like it had something to say about like the nature of artificial intelligence and all that, but I don't know. I just don't feel like that message stuck to landing. I felt like it was the most clunky part of the movie for me.
I mean, for me, it was a little bit more like the big takeaway I had with Robo. I think for me, the third part was that we kind of went out of our way to make her like a good fighter, and so we could have action in the movie, which feels like really. I don't
That
know if I
too.
buy
That's
that.
also weird. Yeah.
That to me was weird, and the fact that you killed my husband, she's like, and fighting fighting Titonia. I don't know if I buy that, but I oddly though I find it so humanizing what we do with her after we turn her into the robot. Honestly, for me, I think there was more humanity there after she lost her body. I mean that's the thing. Ultimately, I think I think for me like Bruce, you really got to see the heart of Bruce Campbell's performance when she was dying in the robot body. That's what I'm saying. So the fact that you can take Bruce Campbell and you can put him in the most ridiculous B movie premise ever, and he will make you
Right.
cry over what's happened to a degree. At the very least, you will believe like, oh
No,
man, this poor
yeah, I
guy.
mean you're right. It is part of his brand, sure.
And that because of that, I mean that's what kind of won me over on. I agree with you. It is uncanny, but for a very simple reason. It's a lady in a very fake looking robot body. So, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's I don't know. It's the fact like him like he's reunited with his wife. Admittedly, you're right though. It's very much two different stories that we're telling. That just seems to be kind of a disconnected plot thing, and then we kind of bring it back to what the movie probably should have been more of, with the whole like okay, they're working through their relationship versus like, and they're just kind of catty to each other.
Right, right.
But yeah, like him kind of crying over her dying robot body was rather moving. Okay, so we have this chase scene. We have some fun kind of situations here. We have like a bar fight where they're playing, where now they're fighting dirty, which is kind of funny. It's just the crazy like Bulgarian bar fight.
I don't think we mentioned yet the scene early on where he's trying to beg for money, and then the Bruce Campbell side of the brain is like, "No, ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't need this. Take it back."
We need money. We need food. And it's like
I
you
think
throw him
that's
on his
probably
back.
like part of what you were referencing with the hand acting, right?
Yeah, well, I'm saying that in general, everything
Because
he
he's like
does, where he's
holding
like,
out the hand, but then as soon as he gets the money, he's trying to shove the money back into the hand.
and then she's like, sees, oh my god, this poor deranged man. She's like, dumps out all. And yeah, I love the fact she dumps out all the change. They're like, no,
Uh-huh.
take all my little old lady coin purse money.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already well established that, but if it wasn't clear enough already, that stuff in the movie is the best part of the movie, and I wish there was more of it because the end of the day, Dragon, I think it's probably like maybe like 20 minutes out of an hour, 20-minute movie is that stuff, if I had to
Yeah,
break it down.
one of the coolest things about Bruce Campbell is he does this thing all the time. I don't know. I doubt he can still do it because it seems like I'd be impressed if he could still. He probably can. He probably can't get up as easily. Um, Bruce Campbell can do this thing where he can, because he did it all the time during Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 and such. He can flip himself, like by grabbing his neck. He can do like a full on like flip.
Oh my god.
It's insane.
Jesus.
Like, you can see video of it, Tiki. It's crazy what he can. Because he's that physically adept. Yeah, man. Bruce Campbell practically did. I mean, he had a stunt double, but only for like the really really dangerous stuff. Because it was like Burt Ward during '60s Batman. There was a stunt double there, but he was usually getting coffee with that. I mean, and of course, Sam
uh-huh,
Raimi loves to
uh-huh,
torture his actors. So honestly, of all the actors Bruce Campbell loves to torture, the actor he loves to torture is Bruce Campbell. And
uh-huh.
in doing so, it's like he would always put Bruce Campbell ended up doing almost all of his own stunts. So anyway, so that's why like the physical comedy is as good as it looks in this movie with like everything he's doing there. So one of the things, so again, we have like a bar fight, which is pretty cool. Then we have this chase. Now the chase is one of the great visuals of Bruce Campbell in the silly, clashy outfit, wearing on like a girl's pink Vespa, chasing the car of the bad lady all throughout the town.
Right.
Now this little pink Vespa, there's kind of a tragic story about this Vespa.
Oh god.
So so basically, there's this makeup girl who kind of Bruce Campbell. I'm not saying he didn't rub her the wrong way or anything. It was the fact of like, hey, this is like it's like a I
Does
think
it
she's
involve
Bulgarian.
little gay Italian fish boys?
No, Tiki.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
My point is you have this, I believe, like a Bulgarian makeup lady or something. I think she was the makeup lady and who helped with the brain stuff and between the two productions, whatever. and he's talking to this location coordinator guy, like another Bulgarian guy. Says like, yeah, we can get this. Okay, listen, we need to get a pink Vespa. We need at the very least a Vespa that we can paint pink and we can destroy. Can you manage this? Yeah, no problem. Like so he keeps checking in with him during the production. Are you gonna be able to? Are you still gonna be able to do this? Like, yes, I'd like to see a photo of it. Yeah, here's a photo. He shows him like a blue one. Okay, that's fine. We can paint it though. So day of the shooting, they do this and they destroy the pink Vespa and everything, and you have like the makeup girl is crying. It says,
Oh
"What's
no.
wrong?" It says, "That was my pink Vespa, and this my
Oh my
father gave
god.
it. My father gave it to me."
Oh Jesus
and,
Christ.
and Bruce Campbell's like, "Very. Wait a minute, you told me." Bruce Campbell's very upset with this guy, and then he
Uh-huh.
had like a moment of introspection where Bruce Campbell, after he's gotten this infection and everything, he just goes off to like be alone in the Bruce's backlot kind of section. And he's like just thinking to himself, I'm a middle-aged man with this brain prosthetic on, and I'm
Oh
destroying
god.
people's personal property. what is what
Right,
is my
right.
life amounted to right now?
Oh god.
It's just so just really again so many stories. It's delightful. All right,
Well,
so
at least it led to a fun visual.
it did, no, for sure. That poor Bulgarian makeup girl, though. But yes, let's see. So, I mean, aren't you rooting for Titonia's death
Well,
during
yeah,
this?
I
Because
mean, like I said, she is a great villain in the fact that, like I said, she starts out as a petty thief, but then as the movie goes on, she just gets more and more unhinged.
this American raped me, and then of course, like all the bar fights. She's just causing all sorts of trouble,
Oh my
man.
god, exactly, exactly.
And of course, I love that it was like, no, we just they help her up. And they like, no, don't fall for it. It's like, no, we just need our ring back. And it's like they toss her in the water.
Mhm.
It's nice that it kind of takes place, during in the sewer, which is like in connection with the subway and everything that we kind of set up in Act One. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I mean, the only last I have one. The last thing to talk about would be the very ending, unless you have anything else you want to mention, Tiki.
No, not really.
I love how we kind of tie up all of our loose ends with the ending here. Like we just like there are a lot of dead bodies. Oh, really? Such a shame. Bring them all to me.
Right, right.
And we just have this perfect bow of a solution where, okay, obviously William Coley's funding this research and everything because it saved him. We've ironed out the process after he figured the whole. Let's put like a little wall between the personalities, and we have Tatoya's body, but with Jackie's brain in it. It's a
Mhm,
happy ending
mhm.
for everyone.
Oh god.
Such a
Oh
clever
boy,
little
yeah.
fix. I loved it. Yeah.
All right. So Dragon, yeah, I feel like you and I are very much on the same page with this. I feel like obviously the stuff with Bruce Campbell doing the campy, two brains in the same body type stuff, that's gold. Uh I don't know, maybe the I feel like the plot could have been a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah.
The stuff with the robot doesn't quite work as well as it wants to, but overall, Dragon, I had fun with this. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's probably gonna be in the lower tier as far as stuff that we've covered this month goes for Haunted Holiday Hijinks. But it was still a campy good time. So I'm not angry about it or anything. It was still fun.
Yep. Remember, Tiki, you can't spell campy without Campbell. Sorry, you can't spell camp without Campbell.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Like,
That's what. Sorry, that's what I meant. You can't
all
spell
right.
camp without Campbell.
All right, folks, that's the end of tonight's spooky selection, and our spirits grow weary. But they'll be stronger than ever next time as we engage in even more haunted holiday hijinks. It helps maintain the illusion.
Pizza Papa gets paid.